Thank you. Thank you so much, Heather, and good morning, everyone. We are so honored to have you here in this room. I'm so honored to be joined by the Deputy Attorney General, by Director Moore, by the outstanding staff at BJA who runs the PREA Management Office and put together this conference, and so many of you, dedicated advocates, academics, policymakers, corrections leaders, and survivors of sexual abuse who have so courageously shared your stories. Your voices and your firsthand experience are critical to our collective mission to create safe and humane environments for people in confinement. It is extraordinary to rewind 20 years and recall the moment when all members of Congress voted together to pass the Prison Rape Elimination Act. Not only was PREA introduced with bipartisan support and passed unanimously, but it's also continued to gain traction over the last 3 administrations since it was signed into law by George W. Bush in 2003. As we recognize the 20th anniversary of the passage of PREA, I want to thank each of you for your dedication, your expertise, your passion, your hard work to bring us forward, to support the safety and the dignity of those who are confined in prisons, jails, and juvenile facilities, and as Heather said, also for those who work in these facilities. You represent thousands of dedicated practitioners and leaders in corrections, law enforcement, and the advocacy community who are committed to eliminating sexual abuse and sexual harassment in confinement. Thank you for your commitment to upholding the PREA standards and for the important progress that has helped us achieve. Now, we're especially honored today to be joined by some of the pioneers in this space, including members of the National Prison Rape Elimination Commission. So the former chair of the commission, Judge Reggie Walton, is here with us today, and we're so pleased you're here. Judge Walton recently published a really powerful opinion piece that I urge all of you to read if you haven't already. It's entitled, "Sexual Assault Should Never Be a Part of the Prison Term." And in it, he states, the Prison Rape Elimination Act was never only about protecting people from sexual abuse in an environment where it is often impossible to protect oneself. It was also about affirming the essential dignity and fundamental human rights of incarcerated people. In my view, effective PREA work is critical to everything we're trying to do in correctional environments. And I want to personally thank Judge Walton, Brenda Smith, who I know is here with us today, and the amazing Pat Nolan, who I believe may be watching online, for joining us today and for your commitment to this work over such a long time. I also want to recognize Alex Busansky, a longtime friend and colleague, a DOJ veteran who served for many years as the head of the PREA Resource Center team and whose perspective I know is greatly shaped by his role as the executive director of the Commission on Safety and Abuse in America's Prisons. And this was a commission that predated the PREA Commission. And just thank you for your longtime leadership here and for being here, Alex. We're also joined, or we will be joined, if he's not in the room yet, by Alan Beck, formerly of the Bureau of Justice Statistics, who helped shed light on this then invisible problem through the innovative design, production, and publication of never-before collected data. As the saying goes, you cannot fix what you can't see. And Alan helped us see the problem of sexual violence in prisons and jails so that we could effectively understand it and address it. And we're so grateful, and we greatly miss Alan here at OJP. In addition to significant developments on the data front, I'm encouraged by the collective work on the PREA statute and the PREA standards over the past 2 decades. It's fundamentally changed the way that we talk about sexual abuse and sexual harassment in confinement. It sets new expectations about what is and what is not acceptable behavior. PREA is now deeply ingrained as part of the language used in these fields. In my visits to prisons and jails, I can almost always see the presence and the impact of PREA implementation efforts that are setting a new tone and making a difference. People in facilities, both members who are confined themselves and those who are working there, are communicating about sexual safety, setting clear expectations, and committing to continued progress. Most facilities now have prominently posted PREA information, emphasizing the agency's zero tolerance policy and explaining how allegations can be reported and support services can be accessed by survivors. Thanks in large part to all of you for making critical progress, creating cultures that prioritize sexual safety, reduce the stigma of reporting sexual abuse, and promote reporting without fear of retaliation. In 2013, DOJ received just 2 submissions from governors with full compliance of the PREA standards, and last year we received 27 certifications of full compliance. We know that hard work is underway, too, in the places that haven't yet come into full compliance. But make no mistake, we are not there yet. Across the nation, we continue to see tragic news stories about sexual victimization in prisons, jails, and juvenile facilities. These stories serve as a stark reminder and disturbing reminder of the hard work that remains in front of us and why it is so essential. At the Department of Justice, we want to know what we can do to support you and your colleagues in advancing this work nationwide. At the Office of Justice Programs, we are going to continue to work with our partners in the federal, state, local, and tribal arenas to meet the moment and squarely address the challenges that stand in the way of full PREA implementation. There is, of course, no acceptable timeline for justice when it comes to people's lives. The work of implementing new policies and practices and transforming cultures in corrections is well underway. And the positive strides we've made over the past 20 years represent momentum that my colleagues and I do not intend to lose. This conference serves as an important opportunity to look back and to look forward. I urge each of you to lean in, to be candid, to be bold, to be constructive, with an eye towards what we can achieve together in the next 20 years. I'm so proud to be your partner, and I'm really grateful for all the work that you're doing on this front. So thank you for your commitment and for joining us today. And at this time, it's now my great privilege to introduce our next speaker. As the second ranking official in the Department of Justice, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco brings deep commitment and expertise to this role, having been a career prosecutor before going on to serve as a presidential advisor and leader of justice, safety, and national security efforts under 3 presidential administrations. She is an unwavering champion of safe communities and a staunch advocate for effective and humane justice system. In her current role, DAG Monaco has spearheaded efforts to root out sexual abuse at the Bureau of Prisons and in prisons and jails across this country. We are so fortunate to have her leadership here at the department and in the room today. And as you can imagine, she has a very busy schedule and will need to depart right after her remarks. But we are just honored that she could be with us here today to share her thoughts. And please help me welcome the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, Lisa Monaco.
Thank you, Amy. Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be with you. Thank you again, Amy, for that very warm welcome and for kicking us off, and Heather for kicking us off as well. It's really an honor to be here to recognize the important work being done under the Prison Rape Elimination Act to achieve its critically important purpose. I want to thank Amy and Carlton Moore for your leadership and your focus on this important topic. And a big shout out and thank you to the staff members who have put all of this together and for all of you for coming out this morning. As this group knows, PREA was established with the goal of eradicating sexual assault at federal, state, and local correctional facilities nationwide. And that mission, as Amy has alluded to, remains just as critical today as it did when PREA was enacted 20 years ago. So I'm exceptionally pleased that we're joined today by members of the original National Prison Rape Elimination Commission. The commission's work from 2003 to 2009 culminated, of course, in the publication of PREA standards that underpin much of the department's work in pursuit of our ultimate goal. That goal being, of course, the eradication of rape and sexual abuse from our prison systems. I, too, want to acknowledge the former chair of the commission, Judge Reggie Walton, as well as former Commissioner Professor Brenda Smith from American University. Thank you both for your work and your leadership over many, many years and for being here today. And I also want to take a moment to recognize all the members of the National Prison Rape Elimination Commission for their dedication in advocating for reforms to address rape and sexual abuse in our prisons. And of course, a big thank you to all of you for coming out this morning, for participating in this very important convening to honor the work that has been done since PREA's passage in 2003, and also, just as importantly, to aspire and plan for a future when the promise of PREA is fulfilled. For far too long, sexual assaults in prisons and other custodial settings were frankly accepted as business as usual. From brutal attacks on inmates by other inmates to prison staff abusing those in their custody, sexual assaults were too often accepted as extra or collateral punishment for those in custody. A sinister but unfortunately tolerated byproduct of incarceration. 20 years ago, with the passage of the Prison Rape Elimination Act, PREA unequivocally rejected this notion with a call for the safe, fair, and humane treatment of all individuals in confinement, regardless of their crimes, and a commitment to eliminating rape and sexual assault from our prisons. Relentless pursuit of the promise of PREA is a top priority for this Justice Department leadership team, for all of us at the department, and I know it is for you as well. We're gathered, of course, to acknowledge the great work that has been done in pursuit of the PREA mission, but we're also gathered to recognize how much work still remains to be done, how much work we all must do to eradicate sexual assault from our prisons and to ensure the safe and humane treatment of every person in confinement. Since the passage of PREA 20 years ago, there has been progress. Thousands of PREA audits across the country have exposed the breadth and the depth of the problem. Dedicated staff in federal, state, and local facilities and agencies, such as PREA coordinators and compliance managers, are leading efforts to prevent, detect, and respond to sexual abuse and sexual harassment behind prison walls. Many state, local, and tribal confinement facilities and agencies are pursuing a wide range of PREA implementation efforts. But there is far, far more work to be done. While we've seen some evidence of overall progress in dipping rates of sexual victimization among imprisoned youth and expanding opportunities for victims to safely report sexual assault, the progress, frankly, has been slow, it's been fitful, and it's been hard-earned. So we must redouble our efforts, and your presence here and the convening and the work that will be done over the next several days is part of that effort. Now, when I returned to the department in 2021 to take my current role, it was apparent that our own federal correctional system was suffering, quite frankly, from a crisis of sexual assault. For example, as I think has been well documented and well known to so many in this room, multiple women at the Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, in California, were for years subjected to rampant sexual abuse by officers and facility leadership, including a former warden and a former chaplain of that facility. Failing to address this crisis means prisons that are less safe, and it would be an abdication of our responsibility to those in our custody. So we set out to address this crisis and to fulfill our duty to achieve accountability and to ensure safe, secure, and humane conditions of confinement across the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons system. Now, at the Dublin facility, 8 correctional officers, including the former warden, have now been charged with crimes related to the sexual abuse of the female prisoners at that facility. Last year, the former warden, Ray Garcia, was convicted by a jury of sexually abusive conduct against 3 female victims and was sentenced to 70 months in prison for his crimes. This accountability is an essential part of prevention. The investigations into misconduct at Dublin are ongoing, as is the department's commitment to accountability at all of its facilities. Those who abused their authority and engaged in sexual assault of those in their care and custody must and will be held accountable. But prosecution of the most egregious criminal actors represents only one part of the solution to this complex and, frankly, multifaceted crisis. So last year, I assigned my principal deputy to form and lead a working group of experts from across the Justice Department to examine from every single angle the problem of sexual assault by Federal Bureau of Prisons personnel and to identify recommendations for how we can root out sexual assault from the Federal Bureau of Prisons and ensure the safety of those in our care. 1 year ago this month, the working group fulfilled that mandate, issuing a comprehensive report with over 50 reform recommendations for preventing, investigating, and prosecuting sexual assault in our federal prisons. And this past spring, as a continuation of that work, we launched a team of experts from across the Justice Department to conduct what we termed Sexual Assault Facility Enhancement and Review, or SAFER, visits to women's facilities in each of the Bureau of Prisons' 6 regions. Through these SAFER teams, we visited and engaged directly with leadership, staff, and women in custody in the women's facilities across the Bureau's regions. The department is hard at work to activate the working group reforms, including by appointing 3 new wardens at female facilities needing new leadership. We are adding 53 special investigative agents, including at least 1 at every women's facility in the Bureau of Prisons. The dedicated mission for these individuals, for these agents, is to investigate allegations of employee misconduct, including sexual misconduct against women in custody. We're hiring 16 new agents as part of an interdisciplinary team within the Office of the Inspector General to address criminal misconduct by BOP staff. We're creating new methods for safe victim reporting, including installing private phone booths in pretrial facilities, piloting private visitation areas at Dublin, and hiring new family support coordinators to empower women in custody to speak confidentially with attorneys, victim support groups, and family members. Since 2022, we've installed over 700 new digital cameras across all of our women's facilities to increase visibility, transparency, and a safer environment. And I'm pleased to announce that we have appointed a full-time, dedicated coordinator at Bureau of Prisons headquarters to ensure that the working group's recommendations are turned into action and turned into new policy. These efforts build on other steps toward accountability for those who have not lived up to the Bureau's mission and to its values. Earlier this year, acting upon the department's priority request, the U.S. Sentencing Commission voted to strengthen criminal penalties for sexual abuse of those in custody. At my direction, our U.S. attorneys are prioritizing the investigation and prosecution of sexual abuse of individuals in BOP custody. Now, my message to our U.S. attorneys and to our prosecutors has been clear, and it's been this. Sexual abuse of those in our care and custody is an abuse of power that is corrosive to the rule of law. We must show that we will hold our own accountable. And in the last year, the department more than doubled the number of prosecutions for sexual abuse of a ward in a federal women's institution when compared to the average over the previous 7 years. Of these cases, Andrew Jones recently received a 96-month sentence for sexually abusing multiple female inmates at FCI Dublin. This is the longest sentence of all the recent sentences for Dublin correctional officers convicted of sexual abuse of a ward. And this year, we also charged 2 former correctional officers for sexually abusing inmates at FMC Lexington. Both defendants have pleaded guilty and are awaiting sentencing. And we've also, and this is a very important change, we've also successfully moved for reductions in sentence for 4 survivors of sexual abuse perpetrated by Bureau of Prisons officials, the first time that the department has ever made such a request. Stamping out, thank you. Stamping out sexual misconduct in our prison system will remain a top priority for department leadership, and we will continue to devote the resources necessary to maintain safe, secure, and humane custodial settings. Successfully addressing these challenges requires the partnership of department officials, correctional leaders, advocates, and survivors, all of whom are represented here and virtually. We've all come together today to chart a course for the future of PREA, a future defined by a culture that doesn't tolerate even one instance of sexual abuse. From investing in National PREA Resource Center to finding ways to ensure survivors of sexual victimization can get those services, to promoting zero tolerance cultures, the department is committed to working with all of you to fulfill the promise of PREA. I'm thankful for the work that you all do every single day in pursuit of this mission. Thank you for being here, and thank you in advance for the work you will do over the next few days. I look forward to seeing those results. Thank you very much for having me.
Please give Deputy Attorney General Monaco another round of applause for her opening remarks. We are very grateful for DAG Monaco's ongoing strong interest in and steadfast support for our PREA implementation efforts. Thank you so much, DAG Monaco, for taking time to be with us this morning. I am now very pleased to introduce Bureau of Justice Assistance Director Carlton Moore. President Biden appointed him as Director of BJA effective February 28, 2022. Prior to joining BJA, Director Moore served as the Executive Director of Ohio's Office of Criminal Justice Services. There, he oversaw state and federal grants for law enforcement, victim assistance, juvenile justice, crime prevention courts, anti-trafficking efforts, reentry, corrections programs, and traffic safety. Just a few things. In that role, he led Ohio's grant-making operations and advised Ohio's governor and its director of the Department of Public Safety on criminal justice strategies. Director Moore also served as the facilitator for former Ohio Governor Kasich's task force on community police relations. That was a precursor to the Ohio Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board. This board is a multidisciplinary panel that establishes standards for law enforcement agencies as part of Ohio's effort to strengthen community police relations. There's a few more here. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you can skip that.
He was the president of NCJA's board of directors. He was on the steering committee of Justice Counts, a national initiative on data.
Thank you, Heather. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
That was awesome. Well, thank you so much for that voluminous introduction. I appreciate it. I was sitting there and I was thinking about, boy, the difference between being the DAG and being the BJA director. Like, she got up and left, and like half the audience walked out the door with her. I get up and leave, I'm the only person walking. As I'm looking at my notes, I have to tell you, so I don't know how many people here wear contact lenses. Anyone? A few nods. Thank you, sir. Why'd your hand go up so slowly? It's not, it's not like a confession. So I wear contact lenses, and you get to the point where it's like, I should really change these. So I went to change my contacts, and somehow I go into the box, and I have different prescription in my right eye and my left eye. And I go into the box where I keep all my contacts, and there are no left eye contact lenses. Now, I don't know how that's possible. I don't know if I've been wearing 2 left eye contact lenses for a while, but I'm wearing 2 right eye contacts right now. And, it didn't really feel like it was affecting me until I looked down at my notes as I stood up here, and it's kind of a blur. So I'm going to do my best to stick to our script here. So if I get through this and you enjoy it, think about the struggle that I went through to deliver these remarks to you. Well, I am so pleased to be here, and I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to start by also thanking Judge Walton for being here. Judge Walton, I'm sure he does not remember, but he and I met probably 25 years ago when I was a law student at American University's Washington College of Law. And I cannot even begin to tell you what it meant to me to see a judge who looked like Judge Walton and who was a graduate of my law school, to be there and to be with us. And many of the judges who were graduates of American would come back, and it meant an awful lot to me. And I've certainly followed your career for a very, very long time. So thank you so much for being here. And of course, I want to thank the DAG and for being here. You can see all the way to the top of our organization. This work is incredibly important. It's important to all of us, and it means a great deal to me. And I know it means a great deal to my colleagues at BJA, that we have the support to the top of our organization. And of course, I need to thank my great colleague and our leader at the Office of Justice Programs, Amy Solomon. We could not have a more supportive leader than Amy. I've learned so much from her, and I'm just so glad to be on this journey with you, Amy. Thank you so much. So speaking of a journey, it's been a 20-year journey, and this is incredibly challenging work. Make no mistake, this is hard work. And I know that many of you are working so hard to get this right. And the reality is we have to get this right. We have to. I want to reiterate and emphasize that this work is about changing lives for the better. It's about ensuring the safety of those who are under our care and control. And I really want to emphasize the word care. They are under our care, and that means this is our responsibility. But it's also not just about the people in our care, but it's about the welfare of the people in communities all across our nation. I was recently looking back at the PREA statute, one of my favorite pastimes, I'm sure one of yours. And I want to share a line from it that resonated with me. Prison rape endangers public safety by making brutalized people more likely to commit crimes when they are released. I want us to all keep that in mind. I think you all know that what happens behind the walls impacts what happens outside of the walls. And on a human level, I want to reiterate that our PREA work matters because it can and it does prevent the devastating consequences of sexual abuse and sexual harassment. Each of us in this room We all have the power and the influence to help prevent these consequences. And these consequences that can negatively impact the long-term health and well-being of survivors, of their families, and of our communities. You know, as Heather mentioned when she gave my short introduction, I served as the executive director of the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services prior to joining BJA, and I had a whole host of responsibilities, as she indicated, including traffic safety. And I have to say, I was glad when the governor gave that responsibility to someone else. But it also included PREA, and one of the things that I like so much about the way that the PREA grant program, the PREA penalty, for states like Ohio who were not in compliance, typically penalties mean you don't get access to resources. And unlike in most instances, PREA allowed us to take those resources, those penalty dollars, and reallocate them, and to help get our state into compliance. It also enabled me to work more closely with our Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections and our Department of Youth Services, where Alex worked. It's just a coincidence that he's from Ohio and he's also here. So as you all know, the PREA Management Office, you've already heard about our team and the great work that it does. I want to introduce, where's Dee? Where's Dee? There's Dee over there, and Alex, who you've seen, Tom, right here, and then Jessa. Where's Jessa? Over there. If you have never had a chance to meet them, please, while you're here, take advantage of the opportunity to spend some time with them. They are really committed to this work. It's incredibly important to them, and I respect. Thank you. But I also want to highlight our partners in our programs office, Kim and Anya. I don't know if they are here. Where's Kim? Okay, there's Kim over there. Thank you so much for being here, Kim. I guess Anya's not here, but they are really supportive and they have great knowledge and expertise about this work. And I know for many of you, those are the folks you get a chance to engage with. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. As you may know, the annual PREA appropriation that we receive from Congress is about $15.5 million. And we use these resources, this funding, to support so much of our work and so many of the responsibilities here at DOJ. Like the PREA site-based grant program. You're going to hear from some of our grantees today or tomorrow. And also our PREA, the National Clearinghouse, which I hope many of you have had an opportunity to utilize that. And certainly we use these resources to support our PREA audit functions. Did you know that since 2012, there have been more than 8,000 PREA audits? These audits have been conducted across the country in jails and in prisons, in juvenile and community confinement facilities, and in police lockups. And moving forward, one of our highest priorities is to continue to identify ways to improve the quality and integrity of PREA audits. Of course, there are DOJ certified PREA auditors who are doing extraordinary work, and I know some of them are joining us here today. However, certainly we at BJA continue to be concerned, and I think concerned is an understatement, when we hear about instances in which auditors find full compliance with the PREA standards in facilities where there are well-documented substantial issues and challenges related to sexual assault and sexual abuse. When it comes to this topic, the bottom line is this: we must do better. We must do better. Our professionalism requires it, but our values and our sense of the dignity of the human spirit demand that we do better. Beyond the auditing and other PREA work that BJ carries out, there are other DOJ and OJP components that, with substantial PREA responsibilities, that are funded via the annual PREA appropriation that I mentioned. I'm very pleased that tomorrow morning you will hear about these responsibilities from my colleagues with the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and the Office on Violence Against Women. Looking forward, PREA committed each of us to working together to address intergenerational challenge of ending sexual abuse in confinement settings. We have designed our agenda for this event to uplift the voices of all of you. You are PREA champions from across the country who are doing innovative and effective work on PREA implementation. And we are so excited to hear from you throughout this event. You have been championing the cause of sexual safety in confinement for decades, and your points of view and your perspectives matter to us a great deal. I talk about our work and our responsibilities. There are three things that we are charged with doing, and there are three tools that we utilize in order to achieve that work. One is investment. We do that through our grant work. The other is through knowledge transfer. We do that through training and technical assistance. And the last thing is engagement. And this is my favorite part of this job. And it's our responsibility to be engaged with you, to learn from you, to hear exactly what your challenges are, and then to utilize the information and expertise that you provide us with to improve our work. And so today and tomorrow are very much about engagement. I believe this 20th anniversary of the passage of PREA is a key moment in the very steep arc of PREA implementation. Let's use this moment to recommit to working together, to identify and clarify what's working and what needs to be improved, to build upon our many accomplishments, and to use our shared commitment to continue to work towards a future that is free of sexual abuse in confinement. Sexual abuse is abhorrent, and it is unacceptable. And it's no less abhorrent and unacceptable behind the walls than it is in any other setting. So in closing, I want to reinforce a key theme that OJP Assistant Attorney General Solomon and Deputy Attorney General Monaco mentioned, and that will be a focus of our work together during the next 2 days. That theme is culture and creating and implementing culture in confinement facilities that affirm the fundamental human rights and essential human dignity of those who are confined. The PREA work we do each day must affirm this right, these rights, and this dignity. Now it's my great privilege. I'm going to introduce Alex. I'm going to try to say Alex's last name. Has anyone ever seen Alex's last name written? You ever received an email with it? Have you ever thought about, how to say it? It's Stojsavljevic. There we go. All right, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. That gets a clap, all the things I said. And that's what everyone claps for. So Alex is going to serve as the MC and moderator of our event. He will guide us in our work the next couple of days. And I want to thank Alex for the work that he's done. And I'm also going to thank Elizabeth Wolf for all of the work that she's done. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Before I pass the baton, though, to Alex, I do want to recognize all of the work that he has done. Here it says he has a great sense of humor. I've yet to see any evidence of this, but I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to it, Alex. So So no pressure. So let me turn it over to Alex. Thank you so much.